What's happening, guys? Ronin Man here. Getting mentally ready for the tour across America. Starting to put a list of cities. We're just got the bare bones right now, so I haven't put it online yet. When I do, I'll put it on the community tab on YouTube, so you can follow what cities are going to be on there, and as we start getting dates and things like that. And I got to say, first thing is I'm pumped, but I am pumped to see how pumped everybody else is. Like the emails I'm getting are just out of control. It's like music to my ears, and I think we're seeing something building here. I can feel it, and it's exciting. So I want to say thank you, and for you guys that are willing to host, I want to say a special thank you. So if you want to host a city, if you want your city to be on the map, can't guarantee it's going to happen because it's going to depend on, obviously, if other people want to go and where it is and, the time, the schedule and everything. But the basic schedule is I'm going to head south. Okay, so, somewhat south. So end up over in Florida, then go up the East Coast and to New York, and then come across Seattle and then come down. So that's the basic path. But it's going to look more like a stock chart too. So we'll be going up and down different places. So if you want to host, add me on Telegram app. My ID is Ronin Free. So we'll start to get a list, and I'll start to put those potential dates and things like that up on the community tab on YouTube. And keep in mind that the dates can change, but I'm going to keep them on the weekends. So if you have weekends free, basically it won't be too inconvenient if it changes, hopefully. So we're going to try to limit that kind of thing. So if you want to go, we want to make it possible. And I'm still putting together a couple more details, so we'll have that in future episodes. But okay, so today I want to talk about something that has really bothered me for a long time. And it's something that I really notice when I come back to America. And that is the inability of, I guess, society at large to face up to the obesity problem in America. And, now this has been exported. We see obesity rising in every country, even Japan. We're seeing big problems with diabetes and things like that. I want to say that COVID-19 has really, it might be the final factor. I hope it is. I got to say that. I hope it's the final factor that causes society to finally face up to the fact that being overweight is unhealthy. There's just no doubt about it. Every pound that you are overweight over your optimum weight is unhealthy. Period. There is no excuse. There's no other way to put it. It's unhealthy. It's like, imagine if you were your ideal weight, and then you start putting weights in your pocket. You just start putting weights in your pocket. Put a rock in your pocket. Put a 5 kilo weight. Tie that to your waist. Around your belt. Start adding weights onto your body. All those weights, all those things. They hurt you in many ways. Obviously, it hurts your knees and ankles and things like that, and it's just troublesome. Requires more calories to support and things like that. Yeah, but obviously the heart and all these other things. The heart is the main one. It's affected by weight, extra weight. And that's why most drugs that are successfully get through all the trials target the heart, like things like Viagra and even things like Prozac. I think I was talking to Chris. A lot of these ideas came from Chris in Japan. So my buddy Chris, some of you guys met him, I think, when we were up there. Anyway, Chris is always going to be around, so you probably meet him at some point. Great guy. And he was, like we were talking about this, and it's funny because I had a lot of ideas, and his ideas just perfectly merged with mine. So I'm going to try to put them together and give credit to Chris too. So basically what I was thinking is, when a financial crisis happens, okay, that's when you find out. When the water, when the tide goes out, that's when you find out who's naked. That's the saying, right? And the thing is as COVID has come in, it has caused a lot of problems, okay? that didn't exist before, like closing down small businesses. Small restaurants are closing, especially high-end restaurants. In this area, a lot of high-end restaurants are closing, and these are really popular, well-respected, well-reviewed high-end restaurants. They just couldn't afford it. They had, the staff was expensive, the rent's expensive, everything's expensive, food, the stock they had is expensive, and they didn't know how long it was going to go on. They probably were prepared. They probably tried to do takeout. It's just a mess for these restaurants. So this is not what I'm talking about. These are new problems. But really, the interesting thing to me is these things that were underlying. So underlying things that you didn't notice when the economy was normal. And then all of a sudden COVID comes along, shutdown, lockdowns come. And these problems that existed that were kind of still possible to ignore, they hadn't quite collapsed yet, they were still hidden to the most people, unless you were a specialist in some area. And one of them, which is I think is going to be a big one coming, is car loans. They were giving car loans out to anybody that got them. 99%, I think it was, of people who applied for a car loan got a car loan. So everybody bought cars. And as you walk around today, you look around during the lockdown, look at all those expensive cars and just think to yourself, I wonder how many are on loans, leases, loans, and those loans were given to people without checking income, no verification. And so naturally, you had people buying things that they couldn't afford. And those subprime loans, they were packaged up, just like the housing crisis in '08, exactly the same type of thing. And now you had banks selling them, buying them. You got all kinds of crazy stuff. Expect to see a major meltdown. And car dealerships were making a lot of money. Everybody was making money. And, it was as long as everybody was kind of paying for their cars, it was fine. But now that we have this break for a month or two, that's too much. And car loans, you're going to see all kinds of things that are going to go wrong. And huge bankruptcies is my prediction. So that'll be interesting. That'll be, I think, a game changer in the automotive industry. And I think it's going to affect dealerships a lot because like companies like Tesla, they don't even have dealerships. They have avoided that model totally. This could be a very direct hit on dealerships too, because they make a lot of their money off of these financing deals. And it's not just, they don't really mark up cars that much anymore in the days of the internet, but financing, that is where the money is. And you're going to see, as the thing melts down, it's going to be harder to get a loan for a car. And you're going to see, guys that are unblackmailable are going to be fine from the original hit, but the economy will take a hit, and that affects everybody. So enough dumb people do something, it's going to affect even people that have protected themselves. So that's the sad thing always. But it affects you less, right? And so I would say if you're in a good position there, pat yourself on the back, get the popcorn for that one. But here's the biggest one. Here's the biggest one in my mind, and nobody's talking about this. I'm going to try to put this into one video. And I can see this because I obviously have lived outside the U.S. for 32 years. And 32 years ago, America was a different place. America was a different country. The obesity problem was not like it is today. It was a different. Reagan was president, and, there was a problem. There was a growing problem. They would talk about it, people gaining weight and things like that. There was obviously there was a lot of sports gyms were becoming popular. People played racquetball, tennis, things like that, lifted weights, and people were big on diets, were popular. There was different diets going on then, but it just wasn't like it is today. It was a totally different thing. You did not see the jumbo people, back then. That's what I call them, the jumbo people, because it's one thing to have a little bit of extra weight, but it's another thing is the jumbo people. And this new type of individual, just simply did not exist in the old days, because the food did not exist to fuel these type of individuals. So you could not go to the store and buy the food that would keep you as obese as people are today. But what's happening with obesity is what's happening now is that when you walk in the store, when you go anywhere, is you will see it's very, very easy to be obese, because all the products you need to keep that fat on are right there for you. They're available. They exist. You can walk up right up off the shelf, and you can basically maintain your obesity at a very low cost. And that's what's happening today, is that it's surrounded us. It's everywhere. Now, my original thought is that this is due to politically correctness, why we're not talking about this. Because the biggest, okay, I'm going to read here the article here. I'll read part of it here. New York University scientists, the largest U.S. study of COVID-19 finds obesity the single biggest chronic factor in New York City hospitalizations. Now, 3 weeks ago, I called Charlie in in Bangkok. And Charlie is my buddy. We did the second summit at his house, for you guys that were there. And Charlie, I said to him, look, I think, because they kept talking about these, you know how they talk in code in the media? Everything's in code. You almost have to like be a scientist to understand what they're trying to say, like a word sleuth, right? And what I said was, I think we're closing down the economy for fat people. And he started laughing. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I think that the underlying condition that they keep talking about, they said, underlying conditions are the big thing with COVID. Underlying conditions. But now, see, it's a good exercise. This whole thing is a great exercise in understanding how to be unblackmailable. Because you have to start with the basics, is that you're being not told the truth, is that everything is in code these days. Everything is in code. And to understand what people are actually saying, it takes a lot of work and intelligence. And basically, the longer history you have of decoding society, the better you'll get at it. So you will get better. But of course, you'll never be perfect, because the purpose of this encoding of information is to trick you. And in the end, if you're trying to trick people all the time, eventually you'll get them. And that's why you always see scammers succeeding, because they just keep trying things. They just keep trying. Finally, they trick you. They might trick you for $5, $10 meal or something that was no good. But eventually somebody's going to, unlock the way to scam some money out of you, right? So you can't win every single battle, but you can get very good at fighting the battle. So I saw right away, when I saw underlying conditions were the biggest factor, I thought to myself, what does that mean? It doesn't mean age, because age is the biggest factor in COVID-19 deaths. Age, over 65. So, but that's not an underlying condition. That's not what they're talking about. I knew that wasn't what they're talking about, because that's something we all go through, and they don't use the same verbiage when they describe this type of thing. Okay, age is not the same as an underlying condition, right? A chronic condition, underlying factor. They use all these different, words that basically are not telling you what it is. But what they want you to think, when they say that, they want you to think that there's a bunch of things, they're all kind of the same, it's all complicated, don't worry about it too much, but there's a few things that affect you and if you want to know yourself, go talk to a doctor and he'll give you the lowdown. But the reality is actually not like that. The reality is there's usually one or two factors, and they're super clear, and most people are affected by them, but they don't want to say them for some reason. Now, why does the media not want to talk about obesity? Now, I talk about health a lot, and you can see in my Gonzo eating what I actually eat. And if you come to a summit, you'll hang out and you'll see both the way I live, the way I eat, and you'll also meet other guys who are in the same path. So there's a lot of at the summits, we don't have a lot of arguments about food because everybody's basically trying to do cool things. Everybody's got like their own take on things, and they basically are on the same road, right? You don't have a lot of guys coming to the summit doing the typical society thing. That's very interesting and very heartening to me, actually. But so I said, they're shutting down the economy for fat people, Charlie. And Charlie's like, you think so? I'm like, that's got to be it, because they're not saying what the condition is. Nobody will say it. Nobody's willing to say the fucking condition. Like, what is the condition? What is it? Why is this thing so sensitive that they can't even say what it is? It's because it is obesity. Now, why is obesity? Why is it so difficult to talk about? Okay. Now, my first impression was, which I think now was a little bit wrong, was that it was all about politically correctness. And, there's a huge movement, obviously, in feminism, which is the plus size models and big is beautiful. And that's something I notice, and I've just never, that has just never jived with me. When I was in my early 20s, like really early 20s, I went to Europe. I saved up my money and I went to Europe. And in America at that time, already the media was saying that some people had genetic propensity to obesity. It was just kind of the way you were. And they used to, in the countryside in Minnesota, where my relatives were, they said it called big boned. Some people were big boned, and that meant they would be more propensity to get fat. But and I remember I was always hearing about this. Again, it wasn't something that you could control, that you're responsible for. There was no personal responsibility. You were big boned, right? You had a propensity for something, right? It was genetic. It was out of your control. It was over there, right? It wasn't you. It wasn't something that you have to work on. So then I went to Europe, and I was so embarrassed for America when I went there. Even back then, I was embarrassed because already Americans were obese at that time. I mean, compared to Europeans. And I was shocked because Americans came from Europe, they came from all over the world, but, the original, settlers and stuff came from, UK, Germany, Sweden, they came, Italy, they came from these countries. And these were the same people in America who were telling me that it was genetic. And when I went to Europe, the people were skinny back then. When you would go to a cafe in Paris back in 1987, I am telling you right now that there was no fat people. Like, there were no fat people. People were thin. And I was shocked. And I tell you, this stuff is difficult to accept. It really, I don't know why it's so difficult for the human mind to really, really grasp this concept, but is that you're being lied to. Like, you are being deceived and you're being misled. And it is difficult to break through. So part of what I'm going to do is I'm going to present this in different ways. Even if you think you're not, or that you accept this, there's a part of you that doesn't. So I want to try to nail all those different subconscious aspects to really help you to get a very clear perspective on what's actually happening and going on today. And it's not politically correctness. And this I got out of a call I did this morning with Chris in Japan, and he was giving me his take on it. And it was all about the food industry and the medical industry, and how all these factors cause this to be such a no topic, right? And to follow the money was basically what he was saying. And so let's combine these into one basic argument here. So we know that COVID-19's biggest, age is number one, and obesity is number two, and there's not much else. Okay, so basically those are the two main factors. Because with obesity comes a lot of things. So with obesity comes, blood things, heart problems, hypertension. These are all the factors. This is another way they were like talking in code. They were trying to deceive you. They were talking in confusing ways that would not tell you the truth. And the truth is, if you're obese, right, every pound you add on, every weight that you put in your pocket, every rock that you carry, every extra pound, that has to be maintained. And your blood vessels, your heart, they're just not made for it. They're not made to have extra fat. It's just, it's not, it screws the whole system up. Hypertension. And this is one of the biggest factors for COVID is hypertension and inflammation, right? These are all related to obesity, directly to obesity and heart problem, right? So the medical industry is dirty too. And this is the sad thing, is that they are dirty too. And that's why this has taken months to come out now. And it's finally out. And I don't think it's really out. I don't know if have you heard this yet? That obesity is basically the main reason why people are dying of COVID. That the main factor that they could actually control, not an uncontrollable thing like age, right? The main thing that you can actually control is obesity, and that is what's killing people. And so, when the economy's good, the tide is high, no problem. Tide goes out, things get bad. And that's what we're looking at right now, is the tide is going out, and no longer can society look the other way with obesity. It's no longer. It's because the disease itself does not follow the rules. So COVID-19 will not spare you, from dying because you read a certain magazine or you have a certain profession. It does not care. It is cold, it is a disease, and it is dangerous. And so that's what we have, is we have a disease that screws everything up. Humanity can make all these beautiful arguments about this and that, and then reality just comes in. And I think a disease is the only thing that could have broken through all this crap. Nothing else. No expert, no study, no realization, no movie. It took a disease, and there will be more, because being obese puts you at risk and is unhealthy and is just a terrible thing to do. It is just a terrible idea. Your number one goal should be to face reality. This is your number one goal, and to make changes that will improve your life. And these are things that other people will not be doing, but you can do. I started this years ago. I did not want to be overweight. I did not want to have any extra fat. I wanted to have muscle. I wanted to be able to protect myself. I wanted to live as long as I could and as well as I could. And that was my goal. And also I wanted to have as little, basically the whole unblackmailable philosophy, right? I didn't want to have a lot of things that I needed for my health that were stuck to one location. So I could just do it anywhere. I could, like this trip around America, I could just go. I can just take off because I can do all my stuff anywhere I am. I'm not tied to one gym. I'm not tied to one food. I'm not tied to one restaurant. I'm not tied to getting things on Amazon. I'm not tied to, you know what I mean? I can just do it anywhere. And a lot of the stuff I can do at the 99-cent shop. A lot of the vegetables, a lot of the things I need are from the 99-cent shop. And so it's not a money issue. You don't need money to do what I'm talking about. Money will not save you on this one. I have friends, literally, there's not many in the world actually, but I know people that are billionaires and they cannot control their weight. So it's not a money thing, period. It's not a money thing. It is something else. So now, why is this such a no-go topic? Why are you not hearing more about this? Well, it's like Chris said, follow the money. So the money is in food, the food industry, right? They make a lot of money selling crappy food, sugar. And if you walk through the aisles of the supermarket, the most profitable products in there are the ones that are the worst for you. So beets are not that profitable. Beans are not that profitable. But things that are like Cheetos, breakfast cereals, these are the things that have a very high markup. And they are processed garbage. They are poison, filled with artificial colors. They're absolute poison that you should never eat. There's no benefit to you to eat these ever. We're almost to the point now that, I hope the government can wake up on this one, and actually start to do something about this, because if it's not unprecedented. In World War II, they did ration food. You could only buy so much sugar. You could only buy, they rationed everything, but they rationed sugar. And believe me, today, they don't ration sugar. In fact, there's a million different types of sugar, and it gets into everything. So I don't want to go too much into it. There's a lot of good movies on this. There's a lot of good books about sugar and the industry and all that stuff. But I just want to say that it's everywhere. It's a lie. It's not genetic. Being overweight is not genetic. You just have to go back. Even go back if you want to see your ideal weight. Go and look online on YouTube. There's a documentary, and it has the Woodstock. So kids at Woodstock. Those, say what you like, whatever economic class, blah, 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 blah. These were normal people back in the 60s. And you can see their genetic makeup, where they're from, where their ancestors are from, and you can also see their waist size. The reason why that's a great video to watch is because there's so many people in there, and it's so long ago, and also they don't wear shirts. So everybody's walking around, it's warm weather at Woodstock, and everybody's not wearing a shirt. Other thing you can do to kind of wake yourself up is go and look at different videos with people that were protesting. So maybe look at, like say 1960s protest against this, protest against that. And then go to Google Images and then look at the pictures of the people that were protesting, because often they don't have shirts on. And then search, protests, South America, 2020. And then you'll see a guy with, I did this exact search, and there was a guy with a gut that was so big that it like absolutely covered his belt, and he's like throwing a bottle or something, and you're just thinking the guy's going to have a heart attack throwing that bottle. This is you can see it. If you look for it, you can see the truth. And believe me, it's not easy to find the truth, because nobody's telling you the truth. There is nobody who benefits from the truth. Nobody benefits from you living longer. That's one of the problems. There's no monetary benefit in living longer. Nobody gets any money. They get money from treating obesity. They get money from treating the heart problem. They get money from surgeries. They get money from drugs. Of course, right? Nobody gets money when you grow a turnip and eat it. You know what I mean? There's no money in it. So no one's going to tell you to do it. And then there's going to be people that are super extreme. I don't want that type of person. I have no interest in them either. This is just something I want to face, I want to solve, and I want to move the fuck on, right? It's not like this is where I spend all my time. This is like an easy thing. Once you understand it, once you get the concept down, a little bit of discipline, put it into practice, it becomes very easy. There's things you can do that are just so simple, and one of them is never have junk food in the house, ever. No junk food. Take everything you have, throw it in the garbage can, get rid of it. You don't want any junk food in the house, because shop healthy, eat before you shop, right? So you come in, you're full, buy vegetables, even fruits. You don't really need that many fruits, honestly. You need a lot of vegetables. You need a fuck ton of vegetables and different types of vegetables. And you need some protein. So whether it's going to be beans and rice or meat or, whatever it is that you personally prefer for protein, you need protein, especially men, young men. I think I always when I was young, I just needed it. I could feel it, I needed to eat that huge steak or those zillion hamburgers, I was a big eater. I'm still a big eater, actually. And that's a sign of being healthy. So if you're having your appetite's not good, these are the things that are signs that you're on the wrong road, right? So society cannot face this because everybody's involved. Look around you. They're all fucking zombies. Everybody's involved. The doctors are involved. The TV, most of their money's coming from, even like Jimmy Carter, basically sponsored by Coca-Cola. He's from Atlanta, Georgia. Coca-Cola. And, these different political figures, they get donations. They get support from different companies. And those companies offer different products. And as long as you don't fuck with those products, they're fine. They don't bother you. But if you start messing with those products, then it gets bad. And I want to make an analogy that I thought about. Recently, the Mexican cartels have been getting into avocado growing. So what they've done is they have started to intimidate avocado growers and take over their fields. Avocados in Mexico is a big business. And it's also a legitimate business, right? It's a very legitimate business. It's a global legitimate business. So guess what a Mexican cartel would like to have? They want to have the right to be a legitimate businessman. So you get on an airplane, you go to Tokyo, you get a hotel room, you got your avocado business card, whatever, agriculture, you meet people, you meet government people, you sell products, you sell supermarkets, you get a supply chain, you're in the middle of the global export food business, right? That gives you a bird seat into who you can use, how you can do things, how you can package things to get drugs from Mexico into these other countries. Because you own the supply chain. You are the supply chain. You are a legit businessman. And you have a side business, which is, a lot more profitable. The other one is profitable, but this one's more profitable. And having a legal business gives you the perfect cover for everything. I think that's a good analogy to what happened with sugar. Because sugar, you don't really need sugar. There's nothing in sugar you need. Sugar comes from naturally from things. You probably need it for energy or something like that. There is sugar in every, in tomato has a lot of sugar. Carrots have a lot of sugar. Obviously fruits have a lot of sugar. But you never need to add sugar to anything. You don't have to. It's not necessary. It's not really, I eat a lot of chocolate. Everybody knows that. But I'll just tell you, just so you know, I make hot chocolate pretty much every night these days. And what I do is I go to the dollar store, the 99-cent shop, and I buy their cocoa powder. So I get a big bag of cocoa powder. It's very high quality. You can taste it. It's awesome. No sugar, nothing, zero. And then I put a glass of milk in there. And then there's a Belgian chocolate bar, which is 99 cents. Very good, actually, that they have. It's a big, big bar, too. I break off a little chunk, and I put it in there, and I melt it all together. So I'm getting like 90% of my chocolate comes from cocoa powder. No sugar at all, nothing. And then there's a tiny little bit, and then that brings a perfect flavor. So I get a nice hot chocolate that is basically giving me the cocoa, which is good for you, and obviously protein and things like that. And the milk, some people don't like milk. Anyway, this is what I do. And it's a small glass, but it's packed with chocolate. It's so chocolatey. It's so thick, man. It's like molasses almost. Not quite, but it's close. And it's absolutely delicious, right? So that's how I do my thing, because I do love chocolate, right? So I wanted to find a way that I wouldn't, it's taken me years to kind of like get all that chocolate and still be tasty and healthy and not go to the dark side, where I was eating a lot of ice cream, and ice cream is just full of sugar. You can't really control it because it's already produced. So I like these things that I can make myself. And hot chocolate's one of those things that I can do. And I'm sure there's a lot of other ideas. I'll look forward to seeing what you guys come up with for the way that you're limiting sugar, but still, happy and eating what you want. Because what happens if you don't do what you want is you're going to break down. That's the whole problem with this whole lockdown, is that now everybody's like meeting. People are meeting on Tinder all the time. People are meeting like secret parties. You can't stop. People are just, and the thing is, now everybody really wants to get out, right? They want to meet a lot of people. People want to go to concerts. It's because you've been limiting, right? The key to self-discipline is you find a way to let the steam off, right? But you continue on your path. But you don't kid yourself. Don't kid yourself. That's the problem with incels and stuff, is that they don't understand that if you don't let off steam, it actually puts you at greatest risk to go the exact opposite direction that you want to go. You have to give yourself a little bit of leeway sometimes, just so that you can be satisfied, so that you're not building up, frustration, and then eventually everything falls apart. Everything you've been working on falls apart. It's like if you're saving money, and then you just go gamble all the thing, in one day. You lose it all on stock options, in one night. That's what happens. So don't do that. Be realistic. That's the thing. You got to be realistic. And also for myself, I always add in there is, like, for myself, I want to be able to be social. I want to be able to travel, and I want to be able to keep the cost down to really low price. Because a little bit of milk, quite a bit of that powder that comes in big bags for 99 cents, and a little chunk of chocolate, probably the total cost of my hot chocolate is way less than $1. And it's absolutely delicious. I can make it for you guys. It's absolutely delicious. Yeah, it's so tasty. Like, once you have it, you'll be like, this is really good. And so you can attenuate it. You can add a little more chocolate and then slowly go down, right? But I think you always need a little bit. And it gives a creaminess to it too. It's nice. So why do you not get honest information? Well, for one thing, if you watch TV, is that TV relies on advertising. Advertising relies on marketing people. Marketing people will only work for products, that have profit. So if there's a product with very little profit, like a potato, nobody's going to write a marketing jingle for it, And it's very rare to have a good marketing jingle for a basic product. There was one in Japan. There was the sakana song, the fish song, and there was a lady working in a Japanese supermarket, and the supermarket asked her to come up with a jingle. They asked the ladies that worked at the supermarket to come up with a song for the fish, and they were going to sing it and then put it on this little speaker and then play it in the supermarket. And so this lady wrote a song, and it was a very simple song, but it's one of these simple songs. It's like perfect song. And it's you can search it, the Japanese fish song. You can listen to it. It's a great song. It's like could have been a top 1 hit. It's like that song went from that lady in that one small supermarket to all of Japan. It's like all over Japan. Whenever you walk in a supermarket, you're going to hear that song because it's just a catchy song. So now she was not even paid royalties on that. They interviewed the lady who actually wrote it. I saw that many years ago. I don't know what happened to her, but that was the rare example. She was obviously a talented songwriter who was working in a fish market. And she was somebody who didn't realize her talent, was just happy to do it. She enjoyed it, obviously. And that's how it is when you love something. You love it, right? It's like me going on this tour. I love traveling. I love meeting you guys. Like, I love seeing new things. I love brainstorming ideas. I love helping people. I love being in the thick of it. I like new things. I like change. I like, mystery and discovery and, all this stuff. And it all comes with a long trip like this. So, for me, I do it because I love it, right? Same thing with this lady. She obviously loved it, right? So, but that's the rare example. Most of the time, the good marketers, they know their worth. They're highly paid. Marketers are very highly paid. Copywriting is one of the best businesses you can get into. Study to do on your own. I always recommend that. Study copywriting. It's like one of the most interesting things you can do, and it affects a lot of areas of your life. It's a very powerful thing, copywriting. And you don't have to spend any money to study it either. There's some very good books out there. I can put a list of books below that you can read that'll get you started on the idea. Anyway, it's an interesting topic. It's a very interesting, it's psychology. It's a lot of different factors in copywriting. But copywriting, what happens is if you're very good at copywriting, you can make a lot of money, right? Because you can sell almost anything. So what happens? Who hires you? Where do you end up? You end up selling the crappiest food. That's one of the problems with marketing. And that's why I don't do partnerships. That's why I don't run ads. There should be no ads on this video because I don't let ads run. I don't like ads. I don't like what they sell to people. I want to know everything that's being recommended under my name because most things I don't agree with. I don't agree with Coca-Cola. I don't like Coca-Cola. I'm not against it, but it's just sugar garbage, and that's something that causes heart disease and problems for my friends. I don't like that. I'm not into that. I don't think it's a great thing, but it's obviously very complex because it pays a lot of bills and a lot of people work there, and it's a powerful company that pays a lot of taxes. It's if Coca-Cola went down in flames, you'd see a lot of pain from good people too, right? So real estate prices, everything's affected, right? And also stopping a company like Coca-Cola doesn't stop that much because there's just going to be another Coca-Cola from China or something, right? Because there is a consumer demand for this product. So whether it's this brand or that brand, it's kind of the same thing. So I'm not saying anything particular about Coca-Cola. I'm just saying that that is their business, right? Their business is unhealthy. It's to make you unhealthy, to make a profit off your loss, essentially. And there's a lot of businesses like this. And this is why it's difficult to choose a business when you get in college. People often ask me, because I was always top salesman, they say, how do you sell? The main way you sell, the number one thing you should do if you want to be a top salesman is you want to be honest with yourself about what you want to sell. What most people do is they just take, the guy will go to an interview and say, sell me this pen. My question would be, I would be like, no, I don't want to say this pen. I don't even know if this pen's any good. I'm not going to sell anything that I don't believe in. And I don't say that lightly. I ain't saying that as a jingo. I'm serious. Like most things, people will present to me and say, hey, you should sell this. You could make a lot of money selling this. And I'll be like, yeah, no thanks, And they'll be like, oh, no, we'll pay you more. We'll do this. We'll give you this. You can have that. It's like, no, thank you, And then finally they push me and then I say, look, I don't believe in your product. Like it's garbage. Like I don't want my name behind it. And they'll be like, you got to be realistic, son, And that's what people will tell you in life. But you don't have to be realistic because what they're saying realistic is you have to live a shitty life and you don't have to do that. But it is difficult to not go down the path that everybody goes down. So don't get me wrong there. That is not an easy thing to do. It is a very difficult thing to do, but it is probably the most rewarding thing you can do is to question everything and don't go down these paths, So the number one thing, if you want to be a top salesman, is realize that 99% of the stuff in the world is crap. And maybe even 99.99999. So you have to start looking, even if it takes you 15 years, to find something that you really want to sell. And once you find that, it's going to be very easy to sell. Now you want to study copywriting and marketing. You want to learn how to do that, and you have to practice. And it's not like you can suddenly become a top salesman just out of nowhere. But I'm telling you that the main thing they don't tell salesmen is that look for something you believe in. This changes everything. This changes everything. Because, if you believe in something, it becomes very easy to do it. I tried out for a movie once in Tokyo. I waited in line. There's all these guys waiting, all these actors waiting in line. And I got to the front and I didn't know what they were going to say. They said, there's a phone. It was in the middle of the room. And there was like all these people, judges, And they said, take that phone, call a girl, tell her you love her, blah, blah, blah. And I went over there. I grabbed the phone and I did a conversation. And I could hear the judges as I was waiting because the door was open. There was no noise coming from inside the room. When I did it, literally the guys stood up and started clapping. They're like, we want you, we want you. And then I was like, oh, okay, And then later on, the manager lady said to me, she said, how did you do that? Like, how did you, how were you so realistic with that? And I said, well, actually I had a chick I was totally into at the time. So I just imagined it was her. And it was very easy to do the call, because it was real. It was something I felt at the moment. So it was super easy to do. Sales is like that. You need to find something that you actually believe in. And if this is all related, this topic, it's all related. Most people don't do what they believe in, so they're very susceptible to selling total shit that harms people, and which is what we see today. TV channels, all of them sold out, every one of them. They take ads. Ads are from the most profitable companies. You don't see a beet ad, unless it gets government subsidies, which I'm not into that either, But you just don't see beet ads. You don't see carrot ads. You don't see rice ads. You don't see ads for taking a walk. You don't see ads for doing pull-ups, right? The reason why is there's no money in it. So I'm not saying it's evil, but I'm saying these factors all together create our world, and it's important to understand that. It's not like there's not the cabal there. It's not the Illuminati. It's a lot of factors that make it a very powerful force. So one of them is obviously advertising, which means that anything that's on TV, you are being inundated with lies. No one's going to tell you the truth. And a TV show, are they going to tell you the truth? Yeah, if they're being sponsored, everybody knows this. If they're being sponsored by, let's say, Coca-Cola, even if they're not presenting Coke in this particular thing, they might have another food product or whatever, Philip Morris food, whatever. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to. But can you do a TV show about, sugar? No way. They're going to pull all their ads, and they're going to punish you too, right? They won't put ads on your other stuff until you get in line. Now, is that evil? No. That's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. It's just, if somebody treats you bad, you're not going to use them, right? If you go to a restaurant, the waiter yells at you, treats you terrible, the food's terrible, you're not going to go back because it's not in your interest. They're not treating you well. You're not going to go back. Same with Coca-Cola. They're not being, in their minds, not being treated well. So why would they go back? They'll go somewhere else, right? So TV, anything on TV, sold out. The medical community, where does the money come from? The money comes from surgeries. The money comes from gastric. The only doctors that are going to tell you to lose weight is the ones that do surgery to the gastric bypass thing, where they cut out part of your stomach, which is incredibly stupid because the nutrients are absorbed through the stomach. And as you get older, you absorb less nutrients. And so it becomes more difficult. You can eat all the nutrients you want, but your body doesn't absorb it the same way that a young body does. And that surface area on your stomach, the less you have, obviously limits your vitamin intake, your ability for your body to fuel itself. So you don't want to cut your stomach out because that's the surface area that is essentially allowing good things to come into your body. So it's a bad idea. Even things like suntanning, as you get older, your body cannot absorb the vitamin D as well as it did when it was younger. It becomes more difficult to get vitamin D because the main way you get vitamin D is through the sun, through your skin. And then also other vitamins because of your stomach. But you want to give yourself the greatest chance to be the healthiest. And that is by keeping your stomach healthy. And so there you go. Okay, so what's next? Doctors are going to tell you the truth. Doctors make money off things that are unhealthy. They make money off emergency surgeries. They make money off gastric surgery. They make money. It's a sad thing. They don't make any money off you taking a walk. They don't make any money off you doing a pull-up. They don't make any money off you being healthy. Get this out of your idea that the medical community is good. I'm not saying they're bad. This is not a black and white podcast. The medical community it's a miracle. It is a miracle of Western culture, essentially. And it is amazing. Science, medicine, doctors, in one way, it's like a beautiful thing. It's like a candle in the dark, and it's like, who was the guy, the book, Candle in the Dark? Candle in the Wind, sorry. Who is that guy? I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, it's, science is a candle in the wind, blown out at any time, right? Medical community, they do a lot of good things. The problem is which side is their bread buttered on? The bread, unfortunately, is buttered on the side of not keeping you healthy, right? You know what I mean? And there's going to be doctors who are going to be, there's going to be the lady who did the marketing for the fish. with no financial incentive. There's always going to be these good people. You have to find them, but they're hard to find because most people go down the road of things they don't believe in. In fact, in a doctor's case, they go down the road of doing something that they know is unhealthy. They know it's bad for people, and they're still going to do it because that's where the money is. They got the bills from school, blah, 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 excuse, divorce, whatever it is, house, kids, all kinds of excuses. But in the end, they sell out. By and large, doctors sell out. Politicians, where did they get their money? Comes from taxes. Who pays taxes? Profitable companies. What kind of food companies are profitable? With the ones selling poison, right? They're the most profitable. So you can see what I'm talking about here. It's like it's very difficult. It's not just politically correct. And then you have people on the bottom end of it, which are like, basically they don't have ability, or they don't use their ability to stay thin, and they give up and they start saying that it's beautiful to be unhealthy. That's what we see with this whole movement now. It's kind of like a giving up. It's like, well, I can't fight it. I may as well enjoy it. And maybe they're right. Honestly, maybe that's the best thing for them, is essentially like wearing 3D glasses. What are they called? Virtual reality glasses, where you're walking around a crack-infested slum, but you, in your mind, you're walking around a daisy field, right? Maybe that is the best thing for some people, is to totally be deluded. That might be. They might be at a point where it's impossible to change for them, either because of lack of intelligence, lack of discipline, whatever it is. They might have things against them, and I mean that. Some people, like, they just don't have they didn't get dealt the same hand, But that still doesn't excuse their lies, and those lies affect you. Those lies affect you, and you have to take it seriously when it comes to yourself. So there was a study, and this is a very interesting study, that said, if you have an overweight friend, what is the likelihood that you will gain weight? And I think it was like a 60% bias. I can't think of not bias. Sorry. I can't think of the word, but basically connection between, if you have an overweight friend, the fact that you're going to be overweight. And they say, how is that possible? And they say, well, like when you grab let's say you had, say, 6 cookies, and now you're grabbing the 7th cookie, and the overweight friend would tend to smile and say, yeah, may as well, today's a special day. And then he's like, yeah, okay, eats it. Whereas the skinny person might be like, I'm going to stop. And then the guy's like, oh, me too. So they finally found out a lot of it was the acceptance of eating unhealthy things. With skinnier people, there was less acceptance. And so that caused the other person to have more self-control. So by surrounding yourself with people in good shape, and again, people are on the same road, like guys with good thinking, guys in this channel, guys who are improving themselves, changing lives, losing weight, getting rid of things they don't need, selling crap, not wasting money, not believing lies, living an honest, authentic life. These are the kind of friends who will also pull you in that direction. But the interesting thing about that study, the really interesting thing, is that the people that had friends of friends who were overweight were like 8 or 10% more likely to be overweight. And I forgot what they attributed that to, but it was interesting, is the more not just your friend, but their friends. And maybe they said maybe it was because the influence that person had on the other person, where they might be skinny, but they have a friend who's overweight. And so then they like their friend, so they don't want to say anything. So they accept kind of their bad behavior, essentially. And then that skinny person, when you grab the 7th cookie, they might not encourage you like the overweight person, but they might just kind of smile, or they don't actively, facially, verbally, or visually give you a sign that this is not cool with them. They're not encouraging this with their friend, right? they might not do that. So that they attribute it, that it even goes past your friends. It goes down to your friends' friends. So to have a good life, you need to think about all these factors. Now, of course, you need to break the rules too, right? Once I got fluent in Chinese, I was able to start to, break the rules. And I could use slang, and I could shorten up words. Let's say there was a new internet word that nobody was using yet. I could use it. I could shorten it up in like either when I'm speaking Japanese in a Japanese way or in Chinese. I could do it in a Chinese way, and then people would be like, "I get it," because I would already know. Like, you would call your friend like Deemy. My friend Deemy, I call him Deemster, right? So you put a stir on the end. Then every language has these kind of things, right? And as you get fluent in language, you can just throw these things on in real time, and people will be like, "Oh, right. Got it." And you can actually play around with language. It becomes more fun, right? But that's after you've mastered the rules. So I'm not saying that you want to eliminate people from your life. I want you at this point just to really think about it, to really consider it. And then if there is somebody, for example, just like COVID is taking out fat people, if there's, or like COVID could actually cause the meltdown of the subprime auto loans, that was something that was destined to go down anyway. It was not going to go on. We'll see the full effects of it. I'm predicting here fairly soon, but it's an easy one to let go. You know what I mean? If you're a bank, you say, okay, I'm going to stop lending money for cars because I see trouble ahead. We've got enough loans right now. I'm going to stop. And so when you're choosing your friends, some friends are really important. And so you're not even going to care. You can break the rules. So you can have tons of friends that are overweight. But once you understand your propensity, you might make a little change. Like, for example, with my friends that are not so unhealthy, I will eat before I meet them. So, for example, they'll say, hey, let's go out. Let's get some food. There's a new place in LA, blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, oh yeah, I'd love to go. Look, let's meet there at 2, because I'm going to have lunch. I have to have lunch somewhere else, or I'm eating lunch first, or I like to eat this, or whatever. Depending on how I'll do it, often I'll just say the truth. I'm going to eat something. I got what I'm eating right now, so let me eat this, and then I'll meet you, right? And then I would meet that same person, but I wouldn't eat with them, right? I might have a cup of coffee with them, right? And so that I avoid it that way. So there's ways that you can outsmart, these things without making these radical changes. But by understanding the world, by understanding the world and having the creativity and flexibility, it allows you to game the system and be in the system and not be influenced by the system, because your mindset is, you understand what is going on. So what's going on with obesity, I think, is that finally a disease is breaking all the rules. It's telling the truth. COVID-19 is telling the truth, is that being overweight causes a lot of problems, and those problems cause other problems, and that can mean that you're going to die. And that's the truth. And that's what you want to avoid, right? Everybody's going to die. We're all going to die. I'm going to die. I have no compunction. I have no, illusions about that. In fact, I've recorded it like 3 times. I never put it online, but I want to do a review of the book, The Denial of Death by Ernest Becker, one of my favorite books of all time. But I recorded it several times, but it just wasn't good enough. It's such a genius book. It's such an epic book that when I do it, I want to make sure it really covers that book and gives it the respect it deserves, right? But we will die. I accept that. But you want to do everything in your power to have a great life until then. And not be kidding yourself, not be looking the other way, and also not be doing things that cause you other problems, right? Because you want to have a great life, right? You want not just a long life, but you want to have a great life, right? And you want to be true to yourself, right? And all these different factors, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the society, because can the mainstream media, this article, I'm gonna post it. It's a ZDNet.com, which is a tech blog. So the tech blog post wrote about, and I'll put it in the comments below. I won't put it in the description box. I'll put it in a comment because YouTube doesn't like links in there. So I'll put it in an actual comment. But they were willing, maybe because they don't sell food at all. They're not connected to the medical industry, taxes, governments, food. They're a tech review company. They were the ones that were able to call it out. It's not an underlying condition, man. It's being fat. Don't be fat, And if you are, be honest with yourself and then get rid of it. You don't have to be that way. This is something that you can change. It's something that you can, and if you want to, you will change. And you'll look back and you'll be like, wow, my life is different now, And I want to hear, your stories. If you went down that road, and I really can understand how, because, if you grew up in America these days, it's like, especially if you have unhealthy parents eating crappy food, serving you food, then, it's a tendency that is your comfort food, right? My comfort food is oranges, avocados, things like that. Watermelon. That's what I grew up on. So that's my comfort food. It actually is. I was very lucky the way I was raised is to eat these kind of things, just sit there on the breakfast table and just eat an avocado in the morning while I'm talking to people. That was like normal for me, right? But a lot of people, that wasn't normal. So they're fighting another battle where they never had normal, right? They never saw normal. They never experienced normal. They never knew anybody who was normal, right? So that's another level. But those kind of friends too, when they do turn around, they tend to be very powerful. So it's not like you're never behind the eight ball, guys. Is you have control. Don't let society tell you this thing is like, you can't control it. It's the way it is. It ain't the way it is. It's not at all. In fact, it's the opposite. Is that to stay fat, you need to maintain that fat. It's almost like if you have a big gas engine, you got to put a lot of, big block engine. You got to put a lot of gas in to drive that car, right? You're having to fuel yourself all the time to keep the fat up, to keep topping it up, right? Once you stop topping it up, it's going to start going down. And once you change big changes, it just will start to melt off of you because it's being maintained by the fuel that you're giving it. You are maintaining the fat in your body. It's not the other way around. You don't have to fight the fat. You have to stop maintaining the fat, for one thing, right? Don't maintain it. Don't feed it, right? So that's one good mindset. Realize that you are natural. Go to those videos of the 60s. Look at those kids and say, that's my natural weight. I'm going to be honest with myself finally. Like that guy looks just like me. He's Greek, I can tell, or he's, whatever it is, he whatever ethnic background, whatever it is that makes you connect with it. Find somebody and say, you know what? This lie I've been telling myself, not other people, not the medical, not the food industry, not the sugar industry, myself, I've been telling myself, it's just not true. I'm not going to believe this lie anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I'm not going to believe this lie. I'm not going to tell myself that. No more propaganda in my own mind. I'm going to turn off the propaganda. I'm going to turn the radio down, right? I'm going to turn the volume down. No more propaganda in my own mind, right? That's a good place to start right there. Start slow. Start to accept the ideas. Start to slow down. Then get mindsets like you realize it's not like you're fighting the ocean. It's actually more like you're having to top it up, like a swimming pool that keeps evaporating. You're having to keep putting new water in to keep it up, Get that mindset. And then start to make practical changes, right? If you want to lose weight, if this hits home for you, one of my big things in Unblackmailable is the Unblackmailable body. So I definitely am happy to help you, but, and this is a very big but, especially for some people. No, this is not to make money. Like, I don't want you to join if you're not serious. Like, do not give me any money. Like, please, if you do want to join Unblackmailable to lose weight, we're probably not going to be in person, right? It's going to be over the internet. I only want anybody who is absolutely sold on doing it now. Like, really ready. Like, soldier of fortune ready. ready to do everything and be honest about everything. And if you're in that state, I love talking to people like this, because this is when I don't waste time, right? I don't try to, like I said about hobbies. I hate hobbies. That's what I think of most people. It's just everything's a hobby. Going to lose weight, hobby. No, I'm going to lose weight. That means I'm going to gain muscle. That means I'm going to do it. Period. That's it. That's the way I think. I just do not. I cannot understand people that just dilly-dally. I'm serious. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So if that's your mindset, don't join, But if you are serious and you're like, hey, I think I can do this and I get all the other benefits, talk about other Ronin stuff, but I do want to lose weight. I've helped people lose weight, many. In fact, John in Japan, married to the porn star, he can tell you very directly, when he first visited me, his stomach looked like 3 basketballs. That's what we called it. It's like 3 basketballs. And when he left, he was like, I don't know what, John, you can comment below, maybe 30-inch waist? What were you when you left Shanghai? He had gone down. He had lost all the weight. And very naturally, very comfortably. Can't guarantee that's going to happen to everybody, but I'm saying that you have it in you. Do it yourself, but if you want help, that's fine. But do it, man. Stop lying to yourself, man. Don't allow this crap in your mind. Just shut it off, man. At the very least, turn down the propaganda and start to say the truth. And the truth is ugly, man. The truth is very ugly, is that you've been brainwashed, and you're brainwashing yourself, and you're hurting yourself. You're hampering yourself. Do whatever it is, whatever mindset it is, whatever I said here about carrying the weights and attaching them on your body instead of gaining weight. Like you're walking around with these things jingling, all these weights hanging off your belt, hanging off your neck, hanging off your ear, hanging off your the skin of your arm. Like imagine all of these like attaching weights to different, like you piercing and you're putting like little weights hanging all over your body. That's what gaining weight is like. It's like not supposed to be there. If you're walking around with all this crap jingling around, it's time to say, hey, man, this ain't about blaming anybody. Feminists, modern media, the doctors, everybody's in their own world. Which world are you going to be in? This really is going your own way. This really is. And it doesn't cost a lot of money. In fact, it can be very cheap. I'll end on this one story. When I was in Vegas, I was living with somebody and they ate Whole Foods all the time. And it wasn't as healthy as what I was eating. I was eating from the dollar store. And I was shocked because in my mind, I always kind of thought if I spent more money on food, maybe I'd be more, more healthy. And then I got this new confidence. I realized like I am doing the right thing. Like the good stuff is cheap. It's very cheap. Brown rice, beets, turnips, Japanese pumpkins, kabocha, onions, garlic, spinach, squash, sweet potatoes, and you learn how to cook them healthy and tasty, but that's the thing. That's how you have to do it, like matcha chocolate. You have to find a way to make it tasty. Otherwise, again, it all falls apart, but this is a great challenge. And if you've been avoiding this one, if this has been something where you just have never been able to really, challenge this one, use COVID-19 as your challenger, because there will be other diseases and they will come along and take you out unwillingly because you've left yourself vulnerable to these diseases. You yourself, you have put yourself in a position where you can die and be taken out of the game. How can you travel? How can you go meet people? How can you do the things you want to do if you're slowly losing mobility, slowly losing energy, if you're having to take a lot of pills, if you're breathing, you can't walk up a mountain, things like that, right? And also it affects your dick. Your dick should be hard. Like that's the fucking way it is. Man's dick should basically be fucking hard. Till you're about, 85, something like that. Your dick should fucking work. Gaining weight is very bad for your dick, man. Oh my God. It is bad for the wood. Gaining weight is the worst thing for the wood because the wood is full of blood. The blood is pumped by the heart. And the heavier you are, the heart does not pump as well, right? So this is a good motivation too, because to stay healthy, you need to keep yourself as a man healthy. And that's what I often talk about, cleaning out the pipes, whether you're having sex with girls or you're doing it yourself, whatever. Keep yourself healthy. How can you keep yourself healthy? As you get less, you know what I mean? And it all comes down. And then as you get older, that can be the factors too, because all of a sudden, let's say you do something like you take steroids or Viagra or whatever. There's a point where you can't take that anymore because it ruins your body. Your body's too weak, and then it all falls apart anyway. Fuck all that, man. Fuck lying to yourself for all those years. Fuck taking those risks. The discipline itself is pleasurable. There is a pleasure in discipline for a man. Because you can't buy this. My rich friends, they look at me and they know they can't buy what I have. My personal discipline. It can't be purchased for any price. And every rich guy knows this. You give yourself a priceless gift when you do this one. And it's visible. Other people see it. So you get some credit, you get some kudos. But the discipline itself is very enjoyable. And when you realize that you can't buy it for any price, no amount of trainers, no amount of doctors, no amount of shopping, the right foods, whatever, can give you that discipline. That discipline and education and knowledge. Those things cannot be taken away either. So when you talk about unblackmailable, discipline is probably the number one thing, because discipline is what allows you to get the other things. Your personal discipline. And this is the best one because you can see it. I like things where you can see it, where it's visible. Anyway, Ronin Man signing off. I hope that's been a new way to look. I hope I've woken up a couple of ideas there for you, whether it's for yourself, if you're helping a friend, or whatever. Anyway, I just want to say thanks for listening. I know it's challenging. I know it's tough. These are big things. Be easy on yourself in the beginning. And I don't say that to be politically correct. I say that so that you can digest things. Allow yourself the time to digest ideas. Don't beat yourself up. This is not about being a drill, although I am a drill sergeant. If you do join Unblackmail for losing weight, I'm a fucking drill sergeant. Ask John in Japan. That's part of me. Is really, and it's inside me too, because I'm that way with myself. Not in a bad way. But there are times when you need to be like that. But there's other times. And those times you need to really love yourself. I'm serious. Accept yourself. Accept where you are. Accept that it's difficult. Accept that it's painful. Accept that it sucks. And be able to digest these things. Don't kid yourself. You can't get through this one totally by beating yourself up. You can't. It's got to be a combination. There's got to be some sugar. Not literally sugar, but there's got to be some sugar. You got the stick and the carrot. There's got to be some carrots. And the carrot is that one carrot you can give yourself right now is say, you know what, I listened to this whole fucking episode. Like, I did it. I wanted to turn it off. I'm still listening. There's a carrot. Give yourself some carrots. And good luck. Thanks.